The following is a tutorial on FLIR's ResearchIR Max software and data extraction. Here I've recorded some data looking at a flashing LED on a printed circuit board. I've created a box tool and plotted it out on a temporal plot, and I can see this sawtooth waveform that follows the heating and cooling of that specific LED. The data file is pretty large, and I'm not sure I really need 5 different cycles of the same LED. It doesn't appear that there's really much difference between the first 2 and the last 2. So what is a way that I can either export this data as a smaller file, not only so it doesn't impact my hard drive as much, but it also becomes a file size that's a little bit more manageable to share. For example, if I'm going to create a self-viewing file, maybe I don't want as large of a data file to be bundled with the self-viewing file that ultimately gets created. So let's take a look at a different way that we can set the play limits and then extract the data into a smaller file format. So I'm going to move this cursor along here until we're about 3 cycles through. That seems to be at about frame 387. You know what? Probably 2 is enough, since there's really no difference whatsoever between the different cycles here. So from 1 to 262 is very indicative of how this thing's going to heat and cool. So what I'll do is I'll go to my end play limit here and type in 262. You'll notice now this small blue bar is much shorter, and when I play through the data, I'll fast forward through it, it's only playing between 1 and 262 frames per second. So now I can go up to File, Extract, and this allows me to choose a folder on where to extract it to, give it a different name. Usually I like to add reduced to the name. That way I don't overwrite my original file, at least initially. Later on I could go back and delete it. And I'm going to extract, instead of the entire file, just the play limits. So now I'm just going to extract into a separate movie file frames 1 through 262. Now let's say that I also recorded at a faster frame rate than was necessary. In this case, I only recorded at 60 frames a second, but let's pretend like I recorded at 100 frames a second. If I don't necessarily need 100 frames per second, I can say, well, only extract 1 out of, say, maybe every 2 or 4 frames, further reducing my file size. 60 frames a second isn't that big of a deal, so I'm going to leave this as 1 out of every frame. I'll click Start, and it exports the data. Now we can go check out the record folder where we recorded the data, and we'll notice the original file here was 385 megabytes. Our new reduced file size is less than half, less than half, 168 megabytes. So a much smaller file format. And if I go over here and refresh my record directory, I can see that reduced file. I'll open it up, play it through, and sure enough, it only goes through 2 cycles of the data. So this is a great way to be able to extract the data into smaller file formats, either by reducing it using play limits, or only extracting 1 out of every 2 or 3 or 4 frames per second to, again, create smaller file sizes. For more information on FLIR's ResearchIR software, please check out the other tutorials available online. Thank you.